Rev it up and welcome to Cars Yeah, show number 2487. Be prepared to be inspired.
This is Cars Yeah, where you'll enjoy interviews with inspiring automotive enthusiasts. Mark Green is here to provide you with a fuel injection of automotive inspiration. So get in, sit down, buckle up, and get ready for a wild ride here on Cars Yeah.
Hello, inspiring automotive enthusiasts, and welcome to Cars Yeah. Today I'm in Utah, Riverton, Utah, with a very special guest by the name of Joshua Minson. Hey, Joshua, welcome to Cars Yeah. Do you have any gear, and are you ready to release the clutch?
I'm ready.
All right, we'll have some fun. Now, I always ask my guests this question to kind of break the ice a little bit. What's one little thing that maybe people don't know about you, Joshua?
I'm not quite sure because I'm an open book, so I enjoy racing and I enjoy starting businesses.
Well, let me give you a proper introduction and we'll dive into your world. Joshua Minson is the president and owner of Redtide Canopies, where they specialize in creating high-quality, custom-designed canopies for outdoor events and activities. And after attending many events, like he said, he likes to go to racing events, and realizing that most canopies were not up to par, he saw an opportunity to do a lot better. Along with better design, better quality, and more color options being the focus, Redtide is also all about sustainability. They use environmentally friendly material that help reduce the environmental impact. Joshua and his team are dedicated to providing the best customer service, both through experiences and products that are possible. We'll be back in just a moment to learn a lot more about Joshua, but first a word from our sponsors, so give them a little love, and we'll be right back. Are you ready to take charge of your financial future? Then let me introduce you to Capitalize Your Finances. It's an online course designed to empower you with the knowledge and tools for mastering your money. This course will help you lay out the ins and outs of budgeting, the importance of emergency funds, investing strategies, and how to plan for a secure retirement. All this presented by financial planner Chris Paniotu. Chris has developed this course to help you effectively navigate your world of finance with confidence. Stop stressing about money and start taking control. Enroll in Capitalize Your Finance online course today and pave your way to financial success. To learn more, go to capitalizepodcast.com/courses, or better yet, go to the Cars Yeah website, show notes page for today's show, and click on the link under Capitalize Your Finances. You'll be glad you did. Do it today. For several years now, you've heard me talk about Linkage Magazine. I've been a subscriber since the start. Their talented and creative team brings you a spectacular publication and website that shares the automotive passion from a worldwide perspective. Linkage is about driving, restoring, collecting, and first-hand experience at collector car auctions and more. They bring you real-world values plus rational, experienced opinions on the current markets. They cover the automotive world and the people who share our passions. And Linkage Magazine has grown, mailing you 6 issues annually. Join me on this journey with Linkage. They're geared for the automotive life. You can subscribe at linkagemag.com. So Joshua, we're back. So I'd like to go back in time a little bit first and how Redtide Canopies all came to be. A little bit about your background, your career backgrounds, and what motivated you to start this company. So can you take us back on a little journey?
Yeah, I can take you all the way back to 1997 when I was 12 years old.
Okay.
I'll go way back to when I started. So I've always been fascinated with marketing and design. And so I started building and selling websites when I was 12 in 7th grade. And it just grew from there. And then I started Redtide Marketing and a company called Ogden Web Design the day I graduated high school, and then evolved into Redtide Canopies after realizing the internet is what it is. And it's just now clustered and everybody's trying to find you as card. And then the canopy business came about just from knowing that a lot of businesses didn't have offline marketing. They were heavily focusing online and not offline. And I had a feeling we needed to go backwards. Not just online is definitely awesome and it's great for business, but people forget you still have to advertise in the real world. And then me being a drag racer myself, I felt that a lot of these drag racers, like especially in the grassroots racing, they don't have or know how to market themselves. So they look up to racers like John Force and Leah and all these guys and ladies in the NHRA, and they're like, these guys have these $1 million rigs. How did they get there?
Right.
Well, they created a brand. And that's kind of my whole purpose with Redtide Canopies was, one, I like racing, and why not make my business about racing and helping other racers that I work with? So it just made sense.
Yeah, this is interesting to me because I worked in advertising for 11 years right out of college, and then joined a business partner. We did a startup company, which I was at for 20 plus years, called Griot's Garage. And back in those days before the internet, the luxury of the internet, although now, as you've said, it's become very cluttered and busy, and it's become hard again to find people. That was a part of our role, is to get people noticed. So, in fact, we even sold a pop-up. I think the company was called Easy Up, if I remember right. And it was one of the very few that you could find that kind of a tool device. And we started vintage racing, and we bought those and put them in front of our trailer to promote our brand, even though we were just vintage racing. We weren't professional racers. I'm really interested in how and where did this fascination and interest for you come with promoting others? Because starting out of high school, the business that you started, obviously you were born in a very cool time, because I could have only have dreamed of this stuff when I was 12 or 17 or 18 years old. Where did this fascination that you have for promotions and advertising and this understanding of how you need to be in front of people in many different ways, where did that originate from?
I don't know where it came from, honestly. Like, I grew up, my dad was a database administrator, so I've always been kind of tied into the computers and in development and programming. And then just growing up, like, I just started reading books and like I read more books than anything. But I think the big thing was I just wanted to help, like, figure out ways to help grow businesses. Like, where can I take a business from startup phase with no idea of what they want to do with their marketing and their graphics and their branding, and take it to where they have a logo. They then have their logo. Well, how are they going to use their logo? Well, we can build a website for that. Okay, well, let's build you a canopy to promote your products and your services at events. And it just kind of snowballed where I was in printing. I was 19 years old and bought a 54-inch banner printer and was doing full color printed banners in 2000, and even into 2008 when the economy was diving, I was still pushing branding, because at the end of the day, the economy might get slow, but the first thing people cut off is their marketing.
I know.
Like, why are you killing your marketing?
Why is that? I think it's an easy line on the spreadsheet to cut off, I think.
Yeah, it's like, and I think that is, they just look at advertising as an expense. And yeah, it is an expense, but it has ROI behind it if you're doing it right. And a lot of these businesses, I think, and it's mainly a lot of the small businesses, the mom and pops, that just don't know exactly what they're doing. And they're like, oh, I don't need to spend that $3,000 a month in Google advertising, because I need to save as much as I can, even though it's bringing money in. And then they realize after they cut it off, they shouldn't have, and now they're trying to play catch up again.
You know, when you study business and you look at business leaders, people that are really successful, one of the greatest things I ever heard was a guy that said there's really only 3 keys to business. One is improve your quality. Second is improve your income via marketing. And the third is do the first 2. But everybody forgets. Actually, people forget the first 2 sometimes. And the reason I'm going down this path with you is one of your focuses is quality. And many times people chase the lowest common denominator, meaning, okay, how can we compete versus how can we improve? And you see where I'm going with this segue a little bit for you. So when you look at something that looks pretty simple, canopies, flags, banners, marketing, outdoor marketing, you think, okay, this is pretty simple stuff. But I'd like to hear, how have you made it even better?
One thing that, especially in the canopy business, the market's flooded with different suppliers and vendors and sales companies that sell them. And when I first started, I was a dealer for several other companies, and I learned that the product wasn't up to my standards. Like, I had one canopy I'd ordered from one of my suppliers back in the day. It literally lasted about 20, 30 minutes at a race. Wind came, blew it apart, and I literally only had it up for about 20, 30 minutes, and I was mad. I contacted them. I was like, hey, I need a warranty, get some parts. I need a warranty, do some stuff with this. And they literally were like, what do you want us to do? And that was the big trigger for me, because I was like, these guys, I spent $3,000+ on this canopy.
Oh my gosh.
Which is doubled. Like for a 10 by 20 canopy, paying $3,000 was insane when I sell them for $16.99 now and full color printed. And that made me want to pursue and just literally just try and take them out of business because I was mad. And it wasn't the quality, the fact that it broke that fast and then they didn't want to stand behind it. It just made me mad. So then I started on a journey of finding a manufacturer I could work with directly. And it's been a phenomenal relationship with them because now I've got 4 vendors I use depending on the canopy sizes, how fast people need them, stuff like that. So now we have a network that we can work through. But the big thing to me is quality. And I think I make a lot of my customers mad, but at the end of the day, they're happy because I'll get customers that send me logos of the size of a quarter and they want me to blow that up to 20 feet.
Right.
Well,
yeah, it doesn't work.
It doesn't work that way. So then we do offer logo conversion services where we will recreate their logo for them and make it vector so that it prints clear instead of like some of our competitors that they'll just take whatever the customer gives them, throw it on a canopy, send it to print, and that's what you get. And it's like, that's not how we work.
Yeah, the logo ends up looking like 2050 vision. It's all pixelated and blurry. And it's like, why does my logo look so bad? Well, that's what you gave us. But you're pointing out a couple things that I wanted you to walk through. What are the key factors if somebody's coming to you to look for the kind of products? And you're right, there's so many people that do this, but knowing who does it right, because you're out in front of the customer, it needs to look really good. So what are some of the key factors that you mentioned quality-wise that people should come to you, number one, but they should be thinking about when they buy these products?
Well, first they need to think about longevity, like the life of them. Like I get a lot of comments from customers. They're like, oh, your canopies are too expensive. And then I always have to remind them that the alternative is Costco, Walmart, and Amazon. And where our canopies, we do offer a lifetime warranty on our frames, on all hardware. We test our products in Las Vegas at the racetrack. So anybody that's been to Las Vegas Motor Speedway, to the drag strip, anything, they know it gets windy in the desert. And I have videos of me up inside jumping on the upper structure of my frames with a 60-mile-an-hour windstorm going on outside of it without it getting destroyed. Obviously, it's tied down. If you don't tie it down, it's going to get destroyed no matter what brand you have. But we educate our customers on how to properly secure them because, one, I don't want them to have to buy another frame. And if it gets blown away and destroyed, I can't warranty the whole frame. But if a couple parts get broken, leg gets bent, stuff like that, we send out the parts. That way, they're not out another frame. And that's the big thing is customer service. Like, I want them to be happy. And so I do everything as the owner to make them happy. And I expect my team to do the same thing when they have a customer that's kind of in a bad mood that day. We always end up off the phone with them having a good day. So,
well, it goes back to you get what you pay for. And if you buy quality, it lasts longer. And you look at the long-term product life, the ROI pencils out much better to pay a little bit more upfront, get something that lasts longer than having to replace it all the time, especially in tough environments like that your products have to live in. So I always like to ask about what inspires people. And have you had an inspirational mentor or person in your life that inspires you? You mentioned something I think is very pertinent, that you read a lot of books when you were young, which meant you learned a lot of things. And this could be maybe somebody you read, somebody you follow, person in the industry, or an individual in your life.
I think my biggest inspiration was my grandmother. She grew up picking onions in the fields in California. She was very poor growing up back in the day when they were kids. And she grew up and then ended up running for governor of Utah at one point in her life.
Wow.
And worked for Senator Bob Bennett and those guys, like big time out in Washington, D.C., doing in the political world. But she was the one that inspires me the most. Even now, she passed away quite a few years ago now. And when she was going through her cancer battle, I asked her, I said, what's one thing that you can leave with me for the rest of my life? And that is to never give up. Like, and she told it just how she always related stuff to you and how you were as a person. Like, she knew that I was into cars, and she basically told me, she goes, never give up. She goes, no matter the speed bumps life puts in front of you, just hit the gas and drive over them. Like, the speed bumps aren't there to stop you. They slow you down a little bit, and then you can speed back up. And so, and that's been one thing, especially in my adult life, that since she passed away, that's been my big motivator and driver, that no matter how hard life gets, it's just a speed bump. Like, just don't stop. Just keep going. Like, it's not that hard.
What was your grandmother's name?
Dixie.
Really?
Dixie Minson. Yeah.
Minson. Very nice. Wow. Lucky to have that person in your life. That's very, very cool. If you were going to advise a young person or even an older person changing careers today to start their own business, and whatever it may be, whether it's your industry or something different, what would be a couple key factors of advice you could offer them?
My biggest thing that I tell anybody, and I tell all the time, is to just you're going to be scared, and to be uncomfortable is not a bad thing. Like if you're too comfortable, you're not doing it right. And yeah, it sucks sometimes to be uncomfortable, but like I said, if I live by the never give up mantra, like that's on my race suit, that's on everything I do. I tell people, if you're going to get into the business, be passionate about it. Don't just think it as a job. Think of it, figure out ways to be passionate about it. Don't just expect a paycheck. That's how I am with my business. I'm passionate about the products we sell, to the point we got into custom racing suits because, one, I'm passionate about racing, but I'm passionate about marketing. And it's like, just don't give up. Like, you're going to have hard times, and you might fall and fail, but just get back up and keep taking the punches, like Rocky says.
Yep.
So,
sounds like something your grandmother would say. Very
yeah.
good. Very good. Well, let's talk about challenges, because as you know, and you've learned, and you've had many of your own businesses, there are lots of challenges that come with running a business and creating your own brand. Could you share one particular story that really was tough for you, but when you look back now, you're kind of happy you had to go through it because it taught you a very valuable lesson?
You know, I almost isn't even just business. It's more personal. I got married at a young age, like at 18 years old, out of high school. Grew up through that, had my son. And I think the biggest life lesson I learned was when I went through my divorce with my previous wife. It was tough. Mm-hmm. And there were times I wanted to give up, and I was trying to run my business, and it was all negative, and you should just get a job. And I was like, no, I can't. Like, mentally, I can't work for anybody. Like, it just does, my blood doesn't flow that way. And it was tough. And finally, after that was 2009, 2014, 15, I don't even remember now. It's been so long. I met my current wife, and it was just, I was in a low point of life, and I was just like, this sucks. Like, I don't know what I'm going to do. I might as well just go work at Walmart or something. But then my current wife I met her, and she got me out of my shell, because I used to be very introverted. I never would go out and just make friends, talk to strangers. Just wasn't who I was, which is weird being in marketing, because I would just do what I did, and if customers came, I would do what I need to do. But since I met my current wife, I talk to everybody, and some people tell me I never shut up, talk too much. But at the same time, I am passionate about everything I do, because I know where I was in life and how I grew up as a kid and what I can go to. Like, I know where I can go back to, and I don't want to go back to that. So, and that's the big thing with learning. I just never give up. At the end of the day, that's the saying of life. To never give up.
What was it about your now wife, your new bride, that she did or said that inspired you to, I guess, pull up your bootstraps and continue onward?
I think it was just, she was so social. Like, she was a drill team dancer. She was in that cliquey, that popular kids group in school, where I was kind of the computer nerd that kind of stayed in the back.
Darn those popular kids. They have it all.
Yeah. So, and even as adults, like when I met her, like when I went out, I had met a girl. It's a funny story how we met. I met my wife. We went to a hookah bar, and I had taken a girl I met on MySpace to do a bud girl search. Well, I'm sitting at this table. This girl I took down there with me, like, left and like totally disappeared on me. Well, then my wife comes walking up to me, this cute blue-eyed, blonde-haired girl, and I'm like, wow, you're beautiful, you know? And she's like, are you here by yourself? And introduced herself, and then we started talking, and I drove that other girl back to her house, and then I was talking to my wife the whole night. It was like, it was meant to be, and it's been amazing 14 years now.
Well, good for you. That's great. I'm glad you two met. Interesting meeting story, though. Everybody has to have a good meeting story.
Yeah.
Talk about
who meets people on MySpace, right?
Well, that didn't exist back in my day. Thank goodness, I think. Anyway, times are different. I'm talking like an old boomer here, so I'll stop that, as my son always tells me. So let's talk about cars, because you and I are into cars. You're into drag racing. Is there a special car that's been in your life? It could be your dragster. That stands out for you. Can you tell me about that vehicle and a little story about it?
I'm a big Ford Mustang guy. My first Mustang first car I really built up was a 96 Mustang GT. I ended up wrecking it in 2019.
Uh-oh.
And then I built a 2004 Mach 1, which is what I have now. And I built that with my friends in my garage in my backyard. And now we have our shop, and it went from, and that car means a lot to me, just because of what it is. But overall, I love my Shelby. Like, I bought a GT500 by Dream Car back in 2011. It was a car that when it came out, it was a car that I wanted. Couldn't afford it back then, and I've always wanted one. I had a poster on my wall of it, and then finally I was able to buy it last year, and it's one of my favorite cars I've ever owned. Is my GT500.
Sounds cool. Well, I have had a Ford in my life. I had a 66 GT350 Shelby that was built by a friend of mine, and it's the only, actually the only second American car I've ever owned. The first was a Chevy Nova when I was a kid. But I tell you, that Mustang got me more interaction than, and I've had a lot of cool cars, mostly European sports cars, than almost any other car I've had. Everybody has a Mustang story. They'd come up and talk about their Mustang story, or their grandma, or their dad, or somebody that had one. So I think Mustangs are just one of those cars that been around so long.
One of those iconic American cars.
Yeah, that's just one of the few cars that manufacturers have kind of kept the same over decades. The Porsche 911's probably another one, and there may be a couple others, but yeah, the Mustang still hanging in there. So why Ford named that electric vehicle SUV a Mustang?
Yeah, we will never know. We will never know why they put that as a Mustang.
Some guys
should have been a Ford Fusion or something.
Yeah, some guy sitting around a table thought it was a good idea. So I like to play a little bit of a car psychologist with you today, Joshua, and crawl into your head. You're a very interesting gentleman, and I wondered if you thought of yourself as a vehicle, as being reincarnated. Not what you want to be, though. It's how you perceive yourself, your persistence, your tenacity, how you roll. What kind of vehicle would you be, but more importantly, why?
That's a fun question because I've thought about that before. Because one of my other dream cars is a GT3 RS. Like, I want a Porsche. Like, I love those cars. They're so refined. So I think if I were to the whole reincarnation become a car, it would have to be a GT3 or GT2 RS. One, they're super refined. The power, the way they manage the power around the racetrack is just driving, like they're just amazing. One, I think that's what I would be if I could come back as a car. It would be a Porsche GT3 RS. Little bit of crazy with a little bit of finesse.
Yeah, well, just a little bit of finesse. Knowing those cars, those cars are pretty cool. Wonderful street track cars for sure. So let's talk a little bit about books. You mentioned that you've read lots of books, and that's no doubt is a key part of how you've improved yourself and how you've grown and become who you are today. Is there maybe one great book, or two if you'd like, that you could recommend to our listeners today that they crack open and read?
One book I've read it off and on. I haven't completely finished it just because it's so thick. Is the Steve Jobs biography. Like the Steve Jobs, like when I look back at like what Steve Jobs did and reading that book, it's just amazing. It's another testament of never giving up no matter what. Like that book is one I could highly recommend to anybody that wants to read a book, especially biographies.
Have you got your hands on the new Elon Musk biography?
I have not.
You should.
That's one I need to get.
If you like the Steve Jobs book and get through that, because it's massive, but get your hands on the new Elon Musk. You'll like that too. Yeah, most definitely. So there's my recommendation for you today. So I'm a bit of an enabler here, Joshua, which means I'm going to enable you to go on what I call the ultimate drive. That means I'm going to park any car in your driveway. You can take it on a drive, but better yet, you can take anybody with you, including somebody from the past that's no longer with us, which opens up interesting opportunities for a co-pilot or a driver if you want to sit and listen to them. So what does the ultimate drive look like for you? Is it going to be a GT3 RS? Is it going to be expensive for me today?
You know, if I could, any car with any person, I would think it would have to be a GT3 RS. Well, I don't know if it'd be an RS because that's a little too crazy for the person that would ride with me, which would be my grandmother. Just to hear more of the stories and have that few moments with her again would be fun.
Yeah. How old were you when she passed?
I was like 35,
Oh, okay.
34.
So you had her in your life through a good chunk of your current adulthood, which is pretty unique and special.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very cool. Well, that would be fun. Most definitely. You know, you've taken us on a fun ride today, and my hat's off to you of what you built. This is no easy task and what you've gone through. And I want to do a quick little shout out for somebody that brought us together. Past guest Annette Bauer. Annette, another person, I see now why she recommended you. You and she sound like two peas in a pod in many ways. In your
Yeah, and that is awesome.
Yeah, she's really, really special. And for you listeners that missed my talk with her, you'll find her on the Cars Yeah website. Worth listening to. Could you leave us today with some parting words of inspiration or wisdom for people listening?
Yeah, for anyone that's my big thing is anyone that's struggling, having a hard time, just believe that there's light at the end of the tunnel always. In life, we're always given trials and things to learn, and that's all you're going through is learning. Like, you have to learn what's going on and how to handle it, and just remember to never give up.
Never give up. Most definitely. Sounds like words of a racer. You know, one thing we didn't talk about during our talk, and I'd love for you to chat about, you mentioned you like to drag race. What kind of drag racing do you do? What do you drive?
So I drag race my 2004 Mustang Mach-1. It's a GT500 powered, turbocharged, runs mid-fours in the eighth mile on a small tire, 28-10-5. Should go a little faster this year, but it's fun. We run with the No Prep King series. We do a few no prep races around the country and then some drag radial racing in the fall. So we do a little bit of it all.
Sounds like fun. A way to get your mind off of work for a little bit and into something fun. Because when you're doing that, you can't be thinking about work. That's for sure.
Oh, yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah. And my wife always calls it my stress reliever. She knows when I need to go drag racing.
Sounds like you've got a good partner in your life. That's important to have. How can people learn more about you and follow along with Redtide Canopies?
We have our website, which is whatisredtide.com. That has a link to all of the different things that we do. Facebook, Instagram, What is Redtide, Redtide Canopies, and Team Redtide. All of that. Learn all of it.
Where did the name Redtide come from?
I was on vacation with my ex-wife, actually, in 2007, and we were in Florida, and we went to go to the beach, and the locals were like, oh, I wouldn't go to that one. Red Tide's in season. And so then I started researching it, and kind of mad because we were in Florida during Christmas, couldn't go to the beach. So I bought the domain name, whatisredtide.com, and then basically my idea of Redtide, because Redtide is algae, for those that don't know, that grows exponentially. Well, Redtide marketing and in marketing, it's all about the little things you do in marketing to make your business grow exponentially. And so I kind of reversed it from being algae to marketing.
That's very interesting to me because I grew up in Southern California, a surfer. I was in the ocean a lot in my youth. And yeah, Redtide was one of those things that don't go in the water. So I'm glad I remembered to ask you that because I thought, why did he pick that name? But I see how you've twisted up the concept of Redtide and how it grows exponentially and how that works in marketing. So nicely done. Very cool. Awesome.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Joshua, thanks for being so generous today with your time and expertise and sharing what you've done to be successful. Great lessons today. Until you and I talk again, I'll see you down the road.
Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. How did you discover your path to a fulfilling life? Too many young people flounder in finding an education and a career that fits. But for those who have a passion for cars, trucks, and motorcycles, and who love working with their hands, problem solving, and fixing things, a career as a professional auto technician is incredibly rewarding. Cars Yeah is pleased to team up with TechForce Foundation, our charity of choice, in bringing scholarships, technical education, and hands-on experience to young people so they can discover a possible future. Join me and lend your support by visiting techforce.org today. Hey, guess what? Some of you regular listeners will remember back in 2019, I created 10, 11 shows called Cars Yeah TV, where I went to some fabulous locations of past Cars Yeah guests, and we did a TV show about it. Well, they're up on the Cars Yeah YouTube channel. So go check it out at YouTube. Just type in Cars Yeah, and the shows will be there for you to enjoy. I hope you have fun watching.
Thank you so much for joining us on today's ride here at Cars Yeah. Drive on over to carsyeah.com to find show notes and inspiring automotive fun. Download your free copy of Filler Up, a fun book filled with gorgeous photographs of fuel filler fun, including quotes from more inspiring automotive enthusiasts. Download your copy today, and we'll see you next time on Cars Yeah.